Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. Water Management Committee, wow, I'm talking with big voice today. Thursday, February 24th. I'll call to order. Take a chance here to invite either committee or public comments.
Okay, name's Mike Neal. You tell me if this comment does not apply to the water management. I'm not sure which one it might apply to. In light of current and past events, I believe I advocated a long time ago to get a little more serious district web protection seen to, and then I don't know, a year ago or so, I believe. Tell me if I'm remembering this one, they actually hired somebody in a position to do their IT work and give it serious virus attack protection. So was that correct? Do you have a particular IT employee?
Do we?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
He's sitting right back there.
Oh, he's the guy. Okay. Okay. So maybe this, what I'm going to say doesn't apply to water management. You tell me, but protection of the overall infrastructure now is a serious part of that guy's job, and like it or not, there's little malicious hackers all over the place who just enjoy doing this kind of thing, and I don't know how subject to the overall operation, other than of course the billing, and which is very important that you get your money, and I'm sure a lot of people pay. I pay on the web app. So I think it might be a good idea to include in, there's a pretty long list of detailed operations things addressed in the normal monthly agenda. Get a report from your IT guy as to just how all that's going. And if we're seeing, denial of service attack attempts, whatever, if we are, how many are happening, or if not, if everything just goes, just so you and the general public kind of knows the footing along that line, because if something does happen and the whole system is seriously, we've seen this happen to banks, and we've seen ransomware and all that kind of stuff, so if it looks like the threat level is ratcheting up, just in general, I think I deserve to know as a ratepayer. I think the board deserves to have a few more details like that brought to their attention.
Thank you for your comment, Mike. Any other comments? Okay. We'll move on to item number 3, Director Rotora's report on the Groundwater Authority.
Thank you. There have been no GA meetings since our last board meeting, and the next GA meeting is going to be March 9th. Therefore, I'm only going to hit the highlights because we've gone over most of this before. Obviously, anybody who wants to ask questions afterwards, more than welcome to ask questions. The big news, of course, is the Department of Water Resources approved the GSP on January the 13th. Continued approval, however, is dependent upon the GA fixing the 19 deficiencies identified by the DWR by the next GSP release, and the next scheduled one is going to be in 2025, January, although there could be an additional release at any time. The 2025 is the latest date that it can be put out. 19 deficiencies, and I'm going to be working hard to see that we get a schedule and a budget for those 19 deficiencies. I think we did a much better job with the POAM for the GSP than we've done since the GSP, the implementation. The schedule has been lacking. So I'm going to be working hard on that. From financial activities, my primary watch item remains the lack of an FY 2020 audit. We continue to be given one reason after another for delaying it, and I'm hopeful that we will see the audit this month, but we'll see. No guarantee. In terms of project activities, the draft 2021 annual report was released to the TAC and to the GA website a couple of weeks ago. My major concern, and I have read through the whole thing, is that there's no overdraft update, and that was due to only 66% of the wells being measured. So we now have a dilemma in that the most recent data shows the overdraft to be a small fraction of that stated in the GSP. And we need to reconcile what's in the GSP with the more recent data. But we can't do that if the GA doesn't give us overdraft updates. So we have to figure out what we're going to do with that. And we'll just have to play it by ear and see how it goes. I know we do have our two consultants, Tim Parker and Chuck Krieger, looking at that document right now. So I'm sure we'll hear more about that in the near future. And so that's all I had to say at this time, but certainly more than happy to address any questions anybody might have over anything that's going on.
The question and answer period regarding the annual reports, when's the due date for comment?
The due date for providing inputs to Stetson is tomorrow, the 25th of this month.
Okay.
And I'm assuming that we'll be getting ours in on time.
Yes, as I mentioned to you earlier, we had a call yesterday with Chuck Krieger wasn't available beyond, but Dave Scriven was, Tim Parker, Jim Wirth, and myself. And we went through the document. As I told you, there was a little hiccup with the Zoom meeting on my end. It froze, and then I got a message the host removed me, so I couldn't get back on. But I did call in, and then the phone dropped me.
Mm-hmm.
So
But Tim has been working with Chuck, right?
Tim and actually Dave Scriven have been working together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we went through the comments and made a few changes. Jim Wirth had a couple of comments as well. And the document, I think I got it in my email today. We were at the Economic Development Outlook Conference, so I haven't opened up my emails yet, but I think the revision was sent for one final review, and it'll be sent in tomorrow.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Stan?
Okay, regarding the annual report where they left out the one key number that I think was the one everybody wanted to see above and beyond anything else that was in there that Mr. Ventura mentioned was the groundwater, what they called in the previous water year report, the groundwater storage change, and it just wasn't there. Now, the claim as to, I guess, who the responsibility was kind of more or less thrown on us because they didn't get well monitoring data from the Kern County Water Agency. One question that strikes me is, does that agency have any responsibility to the district itself to perform those functions? Does the district use that data? Do they require that data? And is it part of the water agency's job to provide that to the district?
No, Kern County Water Agency does that as in-kind service to the basin. Water District, I mean, we measure our own wells, but we don't measure the other wells that are in the monitoring program.
So they kind of don't really have a lot of actual responsibility to provide that. I think there were like 16 wells cited, if I remember right, that they just didn't have data on. They don't have any responsibility, of any kind to provide that data to the water district itself.
Well, we haven't taken that responsibility on. I don't know that, Kern County, the Water Agency arranges for access to those wells.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about the water agency providing that data to the district, getting the
Does
monitoring
Kern County
data,
Water-
providing,
does
yeah.
Kern County, yeah. Yes, that information is public, yes.
So it's basically, it's their responsibility to provide it to the public in general, much less the individual agencies. I suggest that there be some serious complaining made, because as I recall, Mrs. Decker was up here and said that that's one of the things they're paid to do, is get those wells monitored. And now that the GA can kind of toss back responsibility for not providing this key piece of data onto the Kern County Water Agency because they didn't get their job done. What did they do with our money? Why didn't they get it done? Those questions, I think, ought to be asked by the water district itself
answer
and
this
say,
question.
hey, where's the data? You're supposed to provide it. And they say, well, they give excuses. They ought to be told, look, it's your job, get it done. Give us the data. We need it, and this agency we're a part of, the GA, requires it to complete a report and provide a critical piece of data to the public.
Well, and they have done that for many, many years. I was aware, I think Renee was aware also, that COVID affected the water agency staff, Kern County Water Agency staff, and that impacted their ability to come out here at those certain times. Not trying to make excuses for them, but I do remember that was an issue with their staffing. They were just short-staffed. But to your point, I mean, they have done it for many, many years, and we've got good records. It's just, as with many things attributed to the pandemic, this is just another thing that was affected.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to be a long-term issue. I don't anticipate it would be.
That's my follow-up question is, are they going to get it done in the near future so that this data that we need, which is very, like I said, it's like the most critical piece of data when they pop up at the last year saying, oh, well, the groundwater change was only 8,000 acre feet when the GSP said, oh, it's 24,000. You had to wonder why in this world is such a huge difference. And then the very next year, it's like, oh, we don't have the number, we can't give it to you. That needs to happen. So they're going to get it done. Are they just making promises? Are they committed to getting it done anytime soon, or does anybody know?
Well, next measurements would be like, late March, early April, I think is when they're scheduled to come out. We haven't had any communication with them, have you, Renee? With Michelle?
Yeah, I did ask Michelle about that, and she said it was due to COVID. They weren't able to get out and get all the wells, so.
But they are planning to come
Yeah.
out, as far as we know.
Yes.
Mid-March to early April.
Okay. And that, as far as how long does that process usually take? Is this a matter of
Couple days.
a couple of days?
I think it's a couple
Maybe 2 weeks.
days.
Couple days.
That's kind of what I would thought. I'm not familiar with the methods, but it can be that complicated.
It's
So
usually a
it
couple
can
days.
take
They
that much
stay
time.
out.
So then the third question is, how quick can we expect the GA to be pushed, or at least, Stetson, their water resource manager, be pushed to provide that number, that groundwater storage change to the GA and to the public after this data is in hand?
It'll be part of the next annual report, so I wouldn't expect to see that before the end of the year.
So you don't think they're going to update that missing piece of data until another year from now?
Well, if you put the data that we measure now into last year's report, that doesn't make sense either, Mike. So they'll include it in the status for the 2022 report. But we're going to have a data gap, you're right. We're going to have a data gap for 2020 and 2021, which is unfortunate. Hopefully that won't occur again in the future. But it's probably worth a comment at the GA that we're concerned
certainly.
about.
Yes.
Since, I mean,
It will be commented on at the GA meeting for sure.
Yep.
This is the second year in a row now that we have not gotten sufficient data to generate a overdraft estimate.
right,
And as a matter of fact, what I believe I read is that in the 2021 timeframe, they started taking data in March, and then they continued taking it through June or something like that. But that's already well after the time that the farmers have
Right.
done pumping. So all of that, all those numbers, especially the wells that are anywhere near the agricultural areas, those numbers are not useful at all. And then he only got 66%. So, but clearly next month is March, and the farmers are gonna start pumping again typically early April. So we need to get the numbers in March so that we'll have accurate numbers for 2022.
Right.
Although I'm not sure what legal obligation, I understand that Kern County Water Agency has been doing this for a long time. But I'm not aware of any contractual requirement on their part, or who are they responsible to? Are you knowledgeable of the history on?
They're responsible to their board, the Kern County Water Agency Board. Just like our staff reports to this board.
And this wasn't really all that important pre-Sigma, right? I mean, you could miss some data pre-Sigma and it was like,
Oh.
next.
And it
But
wasn't-
now it's part of our sustainability. We have to have the data so that we can start
Exactly.
understanding
Yeah,
the
it was-
sustainability issues.
Yeah, well, as long as you got certain wells, you could always say, well, on the average, this set of wells did this. But unfortunately, now we're in a situation where we have to have, there's 41 that are programmed for, that's a certain analysis. And if we don't get those 41, we can't do the analysis.
Right.
Kern County Water Agency historically has been pretty good about getting all the well levels when they're here. I am aware that occasionally some of the well owners have dogs, and if they go to measure and the dogs are out, they won't go in. So, usually they'll call ahead, excuse me. They'll call ahead and tell the person, we plan to be here at a certain time so that the dogs are controlled. But I know, and Renee can confirm, there have been a couple instances where they've tried to measure wells, but the dogs have been running loose.
Well,
I don't know who
in the
let the
past,
dogs
but
out, but-
this year they only got, instead of doing everything in March, they got 66% total, and it went over March, April, May, and June, is my understanding. And that's just
Oh, that's, yeah.
unacceptable.
March, April, and October are typically the months.
Yeah, but I'm going to be pushing at the GA to make sure that it doesn't happen again, because we need to get these readings, and if we have to get someone else to do it, then the GA is the one that needs the data, so the GA is going to have to figure out how they're going to get it.
Right.
My feeling. We'll see. If Kern County Water Agency is willing to sign up to actually do it, that's fine. They are getting tax money, property tax money, and I don't want to have to pay someone else to do the job they're already getting paid to do. But bottom line is, we need the data.
Yep, indeed. Well, thank you for your comment, Mike.
Comment further.
Okay.
I have one more observation to make. Based on my term of service on the base as an engineer and having to either provide reports or look at reports that were presented and provided, under a situation like this where you had all of a sudden a huge discrepancy in reported status of the situation resulted. And then you get, it skipped past me, that actually there was a prior year where that data wasn't provided. And now we have a second year where, excuses are made and the data is not provided. Yet we have an opportunity to push the situation to get the numbers this March. And everybody well knows, during these, fall, winter months, everybody's pumping is real low. So trying to say that, well, we didn't get it till March, so we can't include that, fold that back into, the last year and call that the 2021 water year report is, that's really not a valid position. And they could get those numbers and they could provide that data, because this is a big discrepancy. This is of the magnitude that it would invalidate most of the position of the GSP, especially as to, we need to import 5,000 acre feet of water and import that at a huge cost from now on to everybody in the valley. If the numbers look like, well, it's really only going down 8,000 acre feet a year, and, once they boot out the farmers, and I'm not saying whether I favor that or not. I'm just saying that's our obvious plan. And with farmers pumping, you've only got an 8,000 acre foot deficit. Then you say, well, now what if when they're gone, maybe we have no deficit, or maybe only a couple of thousand acre feet, which the recycled water would then supply. That means the valley doesn't even need to import water, and yet they're holding up the process by not providing the data. And if I was sitting on any kind of group of reviewers for a contractor out on the base who had data that was that critical to the long-term objectives of a program that was going to be extremely costly, I'd be saying, give me the data right now. Get it done, and give it to us, or no money's coming your way. All funding is going to stop. To the best of my ability to put the crunch on it, and it's got to happen, because this is a major inflection point. In engineering, it's called an inflection point. It's all of a sudden things just changed large, big time. And I think they need to be pushed to provide it, and they need to be, pushed to say, go ahead and calculate it based on current data and tell us what the model says. And that's all I have to say about that. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Believe me, we understand the severity of this problem, and I think Dr. Rotora has the right approach to getting their attention to it on the GA. Item number 4, brackish water study. Who's briefing us on that?
That's me. There isn't much progress to report since the January committee meeting. Just Wade Major with Aqualogic distributed the draft progress report covering the period from June through December of 2021 to the group for review and comment. He also has compiled the 4th invoice covering the 4th quarter of 2021. I contacted Wade on Tuesday, I believe it was. He indicated he's finalizing both of those documents and intends to send them to the Department of Water Resources next week. That's all.
Comments or questions? Item number 5, alternate water sources.
Okay, at the January 19th board workshop, the board approved up to $200,000 to obtain and reprocess additional remote sensing and seismic data that was collected during the 1980s within the El Paso subbasin, and also to update the hydrological framework, conceptual framework. John Jansen, who's with Collier Geophysics, reached out to a couple of different seismic line wholesaler sources. John and Tim Parker have reviewed and selected 59 of the available 88 miles of seismic line data for the El Paso Basin. SEI, who is the seismic line wholesaler, provided an invoice and a data licensing agreement directly to the water district. John was able to negotiate a reduction of the price for that legacy data down from $2,275 a mile to $1,700 a mile. It's a cost savings of about $34,000. The cost to acquire the data is $100,515.90. We signed the agreement and we mailed the check to SEI yesterday. SEI will be transferring the 1982 seismic data to Collier directly. John has provided a work order with a cost of $38,063 for reprocessing and interpreting the data. And as the reprocessing of that data would be useful in the groundwater storage study, the draft storage estimate report will be delayed until the scope of the reprocessing work to be done is determined. And the target date for the report is open at this time, pending availability of that reprocessed data.
Thanks for that. Comments or questions? Okay, item number 6, future agenda items.
I had mentioned, I believe at the last board meeting, that we probably should consider a pumping optimization grant. I'm assuming we'll maybe assign it to one of the committees and to have a discussion. But right now, if we don't pursue a grant for pumping optimization, it's not going to get done. So my personal input would be, I think we need to pursue it, but I think we need to have one of the committees look at it and decide what we should be doing. I do have some ideas there, but don't need to discuss that now. The other item that again I mentioned at the last board meeting is a man camp waiver request. What was it, policy or whatever it was that was being developed that was supposed to sort of regulate all of those waivers for the replenishment fee. It is no longer with us, it's dead. So now we got to decide if we want to go back and resume our initial effort to get a waiver for the replenishment fee on the man camp. And I don't have an opinion one way or the other, but I think we don't want to just let it slip through the cracks.
Are they currently not paying the replenishment fee? Is that what you're saying?
We originally had requested a waiver for the water that we provide to the man camp.
Oh, that we provide to them?
And then what happened is the staff over a year ago said, well, maybe we need to have a policy. Well, and then created a policy, and then the staff came back and said, well, we got a policy here, but we don't necessarily recommend it one way or the other. And so I actually motioned that we approve it and didn't get a second. So that policy is dead. So now we're back to ground for base one to say, do we want to reinstitute our initial request for a waiver?
Ty, do you have additional information on that?
Just as far as the customer is concerned, they are paying the.
I thought
GA
so.
right now.
So I don't, since they are paying the replenishment fee,
Well, they're paying our replenishment fee, yes, we're collecting it from them. But what we were trying to do was eliminate any expense that is not use that in the number of acre feet that we were pumping. Is what we were trying to do originally. Subtract that from our water usage and what we were paying the GA.
we wanted that to come out of the Navy's allocation and not the water district's allocation. Is that correct?
Well, not out of ours,
Right.
anyway, yes.
Okay, well,
And again, you can, when you have your exec meeting, you can decide, what committee you want to assign what to,
Okay.
very good. Any other comments? Okay, we'll call the meeting at, looks like what, 28 minutes after 2? 27 minutes after 2. Thank you.